How you doing, friends? How's everyone doing this Sunday? We have a lot to talk about. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Quick sound check from my moderators. That would be wonderful. It looks like it's working. I see the little lines going up and down, so hopefully it's working. Thanks, Genevieve. I appreciate it. Today we have a lot to talk about, of course. For those of you that are regulars of my presentation here and been following me for a while, I've been talking about this time. We're in the thick of it. We're moving forward with a lot of change, and a lot of us are seeing it. The only question is how is this change going to evolve? And it's a tricky one because we've never been in this position before. What I mean by that is technology is so strongly entwined in our reality now that we're not quite sure how it's going to unfold. And so a lot of us have a really good idea of what's happening, how it's going to happen. But when we're talking about major events that are taking place, are they meant to distract us? Are they meant to take us in a new direction? Are they meant to reveal something to us? And this is all part of what's actually happening to all of us is, as I've said before, this is the Great Awakening, meaning that everything is being shown to us that needs to be shown to us. And that's everything from extraterrestrials to politicians to the criminal corporations, the religious institutions, all of it is coming out. And there's no hiding anymore. Not with this kind of energy that's coming in and from the astrology. There's no hiding from this information. So for many of you that, don't want to change and don't want to see all this craziness, you have to come into this. You have to go into this with an open mind. You have to go into this without any preconceived notions or any political, goggles on or religious goggles on, because you're not going to see. You're not going to see what's really going on. So I've gone down deep down the rabbit hole for I calculated about the last 34 years. I've been researching all of this stuff and going down the rabbit hole as I've become more proficient in astrology and understanding symbolism and cycles and patterns. So, and it's become easier to detect. It's been easier to see. And, and now so many of us are starting to see how things really operate in this world. And so many people are waking up, especially from my generation. We are the psychics of our generation, of this last, let's say, 100 years. Anyone that was born with Neptune in Scorpio. Okay, so if you know astrology, look it up. Neptune in Scorpio generation. That's Generation X. Okay, and we are very psychic, all of us. We're all very intuitive. We see through things. We see through BS. We're always trying to figure things out. And we're here to help transform people's religious and spiritual understanding of reality. And so this is what we're here to do. So my point being is each generation has a role to play, just like the young kids, the Gen Z kids. They're here to take technology to the next level in order to move away from this controlling body that's been controlling humanity. Call them the Illuminati, call them whatever you want. Okay. But they're here to do that. And they're doing it beautifully on social media platforms, especially on X and Instagram. I see some of the posts and I'm like, way to go, guys. You're helping the cause. So anyway, we're going to start off in a minute or so. I've got a bunch of slides. I'm going to go over the review of what has taken place and the astrology. I will warn you that we are entering a month where it is very, very turbulent. Okay. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm giving you information. You do with it what you want. I'm not here to convince you of anything. And what I mean by that is we have alignments in astrology that align, that cause a lot of energy to come in, chaos, if you will. And unfortunately, there's so many people that are just so frustrated with their lives that they're going to act stupid, and this is what we're seeing in Minnesota and other places around the world. People are so desperate and so lost, in a reality that doesn't make any sense to them anymore, that they have to act. And that's the energy we're talking about. Anyway, let me start our presentation here, go from there. Of course, I have the private community right after this call. So consider joining. I left the link down below. It's free. It's a 7-day free trial. So let me go in here and share the entire screen, folks. Here we go. All right. So let me go here. All right. This thing here. Hopefully everyone could see that. All right. Let me start the slideshow here. And of course, today I call this presentation Incoming Turbulence because that's the best way to describe it. We are entering a month starting on Tuesday, the 27th. Now, of course, this is the 25th, but on Tuesday, the 27th, we have an alignment between Mars and Pluto. They are at the same point. They are conjunct. Mars and Pluto, if you understand astrology and symbolism, these are the two planets that cause major changes, whether it's destruction, whether it's impulsive action, whether it's chaos, whether it's military intervention. All of that stuff is ramped up. And so Tuesday, keep an eye on that. But the incoming turbulence starts around Tuesday. It goes into the full moon, which I'll cover in this presentation. And some of you already caught it in my last presentation here, the new moon of purpose. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend it because, I was explaining to you what the trends or the cycles were indicating in terms of chaotic behavior and incidences that were going to happen in the United States. And I said that clearly. And we could see all the hot spots right now. We could see that, California is a hot mess and people are leaving that state in droves. We see Chicago's been a little quiet right now. Not a whole lot's been going on there, but we see places like Minneapolis that is basically imploding. So we're going to continue to see stuff like this, as I said before in many other presentations, the blue cities, the blue states. And this is really not about politics. It is about how those states are completely controlled. They're completely subverted. The people are so out of it, and what's going on. And we're going to continue to see these trends in these major cities. Okay. New York is next, and you got some other ones that are coming. But this is a video that you should watch to understand the cycles and the patterns as I go deeper into that. Okay. So let's start off with that new moon, because that was really what set everything in motion. On the 18th here at 2:52 p.m., we had the new moon in Capricorn joined by Mercury and Mars, okay? And they were favorably aspected, okay? The planets were making very favorable aspects. And up across here, we had Jupiter. Now, I want to show you something. I pulled this up on my program here. Notice how these planets are all aligned. Mars, Venus, Mercury, the Sun. There's the moon and the Earth. Jupiter right across from there. And, of course, making an alignment to Uranus like this, okay? This was a trine. This is a loose opposition, not really, but an inconjunct, but you could see how this energy going right across here. So think of these as vibrations. Each one of these is vibrating. And here we see the moon behind the Earth, which, by the way, Jupiter has the largest, that and Saturn. Saturn and Jupiter have the strongest pull on the magnetic fields. So imagine this, that Jupiter is behind the Earth. We have a new moon that's activated. And here's the sun. And then on the opposite side, we have all this other energy here pulling and pulling and pulling. It's like a rubber band. Okay, think of it that way. And all of a sudden, we get all kinds of activity. The solar flare on the 18th happened exactly. So you can understand why this occurred, from a symbolic standpoint. We had all this energy building and building, and Jupiter comes along here and is pulling and pulling, and Mars is pulling and pulling. And Uranus is sitting there going, yeah, I'm going to make a connection with you guys. And all of a sudden, we get massive solar flare. And this was very powerful, friends. It was a 1.9 X flare, which is very strong. Okay, when these things hit, we definitely feel it. And there's weather anomalies, there's earthquakes, and all this other stuff. We saw the KP index go up. Now, for you guys that don't understand, this is the amount of geomagnetic energy that is hitting the Earth. When it goes into the red zone, you feel it. You feel different, you feel empowered, you feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel, whatever it is, depending on the individual, you will feel it. And I was feeling it. And all of a sudden I go to the, you could just type in a KP index and you go to the NOAA website and you'll see it right here. Okay. Every day you could do that. So it went up into the 9s and it was very powerful and I could feel it. I felt so energized, it was like, oh, a boost of energy. Remember, everything in this universe is energy, friends. So when we have these events, we have to pay attention to them because they do affect us. Of course, this was a big news here because of that, that magnetic field. erupting from the sun. It doesn't hit the earth. It usually takes 2 to 3 days before it hits the earth. Okay. So what do we have 2 days later? California rocked by 16 earthquakes in 24 hours. See what I mean? How powerful these waves are when the solar flares hit? Very important to pay attention to, not out of fear, but it affects us, not just our physical bodies, but the actual earth itself. So we saw this going on. And in Indio, California, there was a 4.2, some reported a 4.9 that was pretty big. Okay. So this was very powerful. So we have to pay attention to all this stuff, friends. Also, at the same time, on the 20th, we saw the political theater ramp up, just as I indicated. I suggested there was going to be more legal issues coming up, more protests or nonsense or something going on. And of course, the DOJ serves the grand jury subpoenas to Minnesota Democrats in investigation of ICE obstruction. Is anyone surprised by that? No, but I'm just giving you the dates that these events are occurring. The astrology was indicating a lot of severity because of the alignments coming in. And again, it's just symbolic of the energy, Here's another article. You could read it for yourself. The grand jury, indictments. Also, we had 3 people arrested in custody because of the anti-ICE church thing going on. Remember those protesters that went in there and disrupted the service in the church? There were 3 people that were charged. So, we're seeing all this happening around the same time. We also see this. Now, people, if you've been following me, if you're following the real news, you know that the economy is absolutely changing. No doubt about it. And it's being orchestrated on purpose, friends, on purpose. Okay, remember, they want a digital identification system. They want digital currency. They want, everybody to be on board with this nonsense. And I'm saying to you guys, resist as much as you can, because it is the enslavement that you've never seen before, beyond anything you could possibly imagine. And so there was an economic, this was zero hedge, everything crashing as Trump arrives in Davos amid Japan bond meltdown. These other countries are scrambling because, they're not sure what to do with their currency. And of course, the United States, nobody's talking about, is going through a massive change as well, because nobody wants our treasuries. And we keep printing more and more phony money. So this is what's driving gold and silver prices through the roof right now. Okay. Of course, Trump arrives in Davos and is, I can't even listen to him. I mean, it's just so silly, but he's there for a reason. Again, doing what he has to do. And he's basically telling everyone that this is what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do. And he's basically trying to tell everyone the United States is going to be rebuilt and they should start investing. But at the same time, there's a lot of talk of him, pulling away from these organizations, which he has done. I think he pulled away from 16 organizations already, pulled the United States out of these organizations that are basically, crime syndicates. And so I applaud him for that. Okay. But again, he's doing what he has to do, and the way he does it, I'm not for or against it, but it was very interesting to watch all of this dog and pony show. That's how I got to call it. Okay. All right. Now, here's something very interesting that has been blowing up on the internet, literally and figuratively. This is from Patagonia, South America. There's parts of the forest down there that are apparently being set on fire on purpose. And Matt Gaetz does a fantastic job of putting it all together. So I highly recommend this. This is on YouTube. Here's the title here. Are these settlers burning down land to take it over in the Americas? You should watch that. Please watch that, because it makes a lot of sense. And the evidence that they found was pretty damning to these people here in this country. Okay. So we are seeing absolutely systematic moves to control South America. And I've said that before in previous videos, how they have plans to take over the resources all over the world. This is Greenland. This is South America. This is Africa. This is all over the world. They're dividing. Somebody is dividing the planet so they can control it. Okay. So here's another piece of the puzzle. All right. Let's go into the astrology real quick. We have Mars that enters Aquarius. Now, this is where things really get real interesting, because here you see Mars, and it's in Aquarius, the rebellion planet. It's the rebellious energy. And notice what it's doing. It's getting closer and closer. It's going to be conjunct Pluto, like I said, on Tuesday. But notice the Sun and Pluto. And this was on the 23rd. So we could see this energy ramping up. Here we see something really strange and weird, friends. that was posted, and it's gone viral as well, where the Bank of England has been advised to prepare for a major financial crisis that could be triggered by an official announcement confirming the existence of extraterrestrials. Now, this was on the 17th, but I want to show you the kind of surprising energy, the surprising shock and awe that's represented by Aquarius. Aquarius is the planet of shock and awe and disruption. And it also rules aliens and extraterrestrial and space. So we could see this kind of energy for some reason coming in, and there's a lot of change here or talking about change. And of course, this could all be a setup. We could all be being set up for something. And so we have to take it all with a grain of salt. Don't believe any of it and just see how it plays itself out. We also see Sean Ryan making statements here. I've never seen such a group of people go to such lengths to protect these predators. Okay. And this is because the DOJ has filed a motion to block the appointment of an independent monitor to release these files here in the Maxwell case. I mean, it's a head scratcher, friends. Why are these files being blocked? They voted on them. They're supposed to release them. And it's been, what, I don't know, a month, and all the files have not been released. So you got to question, why is this happening? So Sean Ryan's doing the same thing. Why are they doing this? It makes no sense. Anyway, we also see this, friends. JP Morgan warns of a parallel banking system is emerging, and it could put trillions in deposits at risk. Now, this criminal institution, JP Morgan, is at the forefront and in the center of the issue with silver. And later on, I'm going to talk about that. But they already know that there's a parallel banking system coming up, and it has to do with crypto. It has to do with a currency that's backed by gold, just like in the BRICS nations, and it's happening here in the U.S. So it wouldn't surprise me this year in particular, either around April or around July and August, that we introduce a new currency backed by either gold, it's more than likely going to be gold, or some sort of crypto backed by gold. These are the timelines that I'm seeing, friends, okay? And all these criminal bankers want a piece of the pie. They're in it, and they're like all posturing to get into the system and to make out. Remember, the criminal banks are what runs the world, and behind them are the hidden hand of the people in the shadows running the show. But let's make no mistake that the banks are the criminal institutions that run this planet, okay? They control everything. Here is a very, very interesting video that you should watch. This is from Stephanie on X. Okay. This is a warning. JP Morgan it was warning its members in one of its board meetings or something. And this is Will. I forgot his last name, but he's basically reading this. And again, this could be AI generated for all I know, but take it for whatever it's worth. But I want you to listen to the information. Now, this could also be a video that somebody's trying to hype up and, drive silver through the roof, but it's going to happen anyway. I'm telling you right now, because I see silver at least going to $300. Okay. Now, this is not financial advice. This is basically because the criminals at JP Morgan have been fined, millions and millions of dollars for rigging the silver markets. This is all proof. This has actually happened, and so what he's basically suggesting, you should listen to it for yourself. This was I put the date up here, the 23rd. And so go to Stephanie here. This is her video, her picture and whatever on X, and look for this under there and listen to him talk. It's about 2 minutes or so. And he'll explain what's going on with JP Morgan and this rigging of the silver markets. In other words, they've been selling paper on silver that they don't have. And now all of that paper is coming due, and they don't have, the silver. So they have to basically pay out on stuff they don't have. So they're speculating that silver could go up to $400 an ounce. So we'll see, but it's going to be very interesting to watch. I could tell you that. And by the way, speaking of gold and silver, it broke new records. Gold went over 5,000, and silver, I believe, is still over $100 as today. So we have, this event horizon that has occurred. All right. I also talked about blackouts, friends. Now, remember, the vision was it was a dream. I was waking up in the morning, and my uncle came to me and was showing me some sort of blackouts in the Northeast. Now, I'm only bringing this up because of the weather anomalies that we have been witnessing. Now, this would absolutely cause blackouts with the ice and rain that is happening in the South. And again, here's more indication of massive change that has been occurring. And by the way, every time there is rain coming in, I want you to notice something, because I've noticed this trend for a while. When you look at a forecast, no matter where you are, uh, usually a few days before, there's all kinds of chemtrails that are being sprayed in the atmosphere. And then all of a sudden the rain comes in, and it washes it down to the ground. This is why we have so much ice and slippery roads. This never used to be like this, friends. It was never like this. Growing up, we never had intense ice, black ice like we do right now. I mean, causing so much chaos. And this is because of whatever they're putting in those chemical trails that they're spraying. And by the way, it's not a conspiracy anymore. They've admitted it, that they're geoengineering the weather. They've admitted it. And so you could go to Geoengineering Watch and watch tons of information from scientists to researchers to ex-military talking about it. So it's not even speculation anymore. It's real. So the point being is when they spray that aluminum and barium and all those other metals, it goes to the ground and ices up, and you have this slick surface here. And so we have to pay attention to all this. And again, look at the dates that it's happening, 24th to 26th. Now let's talk about this Sun Pluto, this Sun Pluto event that's going to happen here, or has happened, but is also, creating this energy. Okay. Now this is very important because I want to show you how the astrology works. On the 23rd, we had this conjunction, very powerful energy in the United States. We could see it here. Now this has to do with the financial system that's been coming up. And I said, this is a lot of unsettling, unstable energy. And so we saw all of this, the Sun conjunct Pluto right there, Trump going to Davos, making all those speeches. But then the moon enters Aries, and I said there's a lot more volatility in the air. There could be another event going on. And so the moon enters Aries on Friday, right there. It actually was moving into the fourth house, the home, feeling and foundation, beginning to make a square to Venus. Okay, so again, we're seeing this pressure being put on. What do we see? The Minneapolis shooting. Another man was shot here on the 24th. So we could see this energy just continuing to build. And if you watch that New Moon Outlook video, you know what I'm talking about. And so we see another shooting here. Okay. And it's disgusting. It really is, one way or another. It's not pretty. It's not, it's just, it is what it is. And, it's happening the way it needs to happen. I totally understand that. But, it's just, all I could say is you folks want to protest, and I'm all for that. You could go protest. Just stay out of their way. I'm just saying, don't get yourselves involved with, people with guns and the federal government. You want to protest? That's wonderful. Great, do it. But stay out of their way. Don't get in their faces, because they're going to fight back. I mean, that's just common sense to me, guys. I mean, don't get yourself hurt and killed for silly reasons. That's just my take on it. All right. Anyway, we also saw that because of this incident, the National Guard was activated. So once again, we're seeing the Mars Pluto energy that is being, energized in a sense. Okay. And this is all happening right between, the 23rd and the 24th. And that energy is still very volatile all the way into February. So here it is in the United States. This is exactly when it took place. They said around 9:00. Look at where the moon was, exactly opposing Saturn, which represents government. Okay, squaring the sun in Cancer, emotions, feelings, and the sun of the United States. So we see a giant T square, exact on the morning of that shooting in Minneapolis. You see how the astrology works, friends? You could clearly see, especially when the moon is exact opposed authority. Saturn represents authority. And the fourth house represents the homeland or emotions and feelings. And Aries is impulsive. So what took place there? Either the officer was very impulsive, or the person that got shot was very impulsive, or the other person behind them that was involved in all this was impulsive. You see what I'm saying? And they were challenging authority. That's a square, challenge. Of course, there were emotions involved right there. Cancer, moon and sun in Cancer. You see how it works, friends? So this was very descriptive and very on target with the kind of energy we're dealing with. And remember, Uranus, look at here, 27 degrees, moon at 27 degrees. So we already have this energy that is very disruptive to begin with. And it's going to be active all the way, I said, until about March the 9th. So we're not out of the woods yet, friends. So when I say turbulence incoming, yes, we haven't seen anything yet. February is off the charts. March is off the charts as well because we have a lunar eclipse coming in and Jupiter wakes up from its retrograde. Anytime Jupiter wakes up from its retrograde, it is going to empower energy, and it's in Cancer, the sign of the United States, and it's on Mercury right there. So it's eventually going to be hitting Mercury. So I'm expecting some major announcements to come in April, May, June about the financial system. And again, like I said, it could be a new financial system backed by cryptocurrency or gold in some way. But I wanted to show you this T-square, how amazing the astrology was, how accurate it was when you look at the symbolism of it. Okay, so here we have the moon square Jupiter. This was also something going on, and the energy is still pretty volatile yesterday. So people were all emotional and angry and, upset and sad or whatever it was. You see Jupiter squaring the moon right there. All right, but let's continue. This guy right here has become my new favorite researcher. It's almost as if he and I have read from the same books and the same places. That's how good he is. I have tremendous respect for this man. This is Professor Yang. Okay. He does these free videos. I believe he's in Beijing, China. Okay. But listen to the information. I've watched, many hours of his research, and I'm like, man, this guy is good. I highly suggest him. Now, this is one guy that's interviewing, but you go to his channel, Professor Yang, he has predictive history. You want to listen. He's a great strategist. He knows his history, and he's making predictions based on history, what he sees coming. It's fantastic. He is absolutely right on target. Okay, here he is. Here is one of the videos. Now, for you guys that really want to go down the rabbit hole and want to understand what the end goal is, what the end game is that we're going through right now and in the next 10 to 15 years, you must, and I say you must watch this video. This is about an hour and 20 minutes of his lecture. He goes into the past to bring it forward and to show you what is actually taking place right now. And it does involve this country right here. This starts with an I. Okay, he calls it Pax Judaica. It is remarkable. It is amazing. And it is right on point. And he shows you some of the ceremonies that have been taking place to go in that direction. He's basically saying, he's referencing the Bible and, Revelations and all that. And this is what they're following. So my point being is this is one of the best videos that I would suggest if you really want to know what's going on in the world, why all these crazy moves are being made, why are there killings in the Middle East, why are all these major players going after resources, okay? This video will explain it all. You must watch the whole video, and he's got tons of other videos, but I highly suggest it because it is right on point. It'll give you a really good idea of what the hell is going on. Okay, and what the end goal is. If you can't sit through an hour and a half, I found this one. This is an AI generated video. This is from this guy right here, Bromatic Trader, explaining Pax Judaica. And I believe this is only like a 5 or 7 minute video if you want the AI version, the abbreviated version. But I suggest watching the entire video from Professor Yang because it is phenomenal. Like I said, I really appreciate that man's courage and his research because it's about the same thing that I discovered years ago as well. And he's trying to show us what's really going on. All right. Now, this is the slide that I'm going to be using for the solar eclipse that's coming in on the 17th. Of course, I'll have a video for it. But notice the title that I've given this solar eclipse. Now, I'm not going to go into the chart for this eclipse, but this is why I call this video Incoming Turbulence. If you understand the symbol of Aquarius and the energy of this solar cycle that's coming in, it is all Aquarius energy. Now, I generated this AI image to show you or give you an idea of the kind of energy that Aquarius is usually associated with. It is associated with the sky. It is the symbol that represents space. It is about electricity. It's about lightning strikes. It's about sudden change, sudden awarenesses, sudden insights. It's about disruption. What happens when lightning strikes? It destroys, could cause fire, and, cause chaos in an area. Now, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but what I'm saying, I'm giving you the symbolism behind the sign of Aquarius, the symbol of Aquarius. Electricity, this is what it is. This is what it represents. And it's all the way through the February the 18th, and the eclipse is on the 17th. So we've got this tremendous amount of energy that is building, building, building. And it starts this weekend, starting on the 27th, when Mars, is conjuncting Pluto in Aquarius. So I want you to understand this energy so that you don't take it personally. I've got, I've talked to people here in the park that I'm in, are saying things that I could hear. I'm feeling so off. I feel so weird. It feels strange. Yes, when you understand this energy and this vibration that's happening, and we're in this Aquarian sort of unstable energy, yes, you're going to feel it. And so this is going to continue to ramp up, friends, especially after, and these are the dates, February the 9th on. The energy just starts going boop, 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 up, 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 unstable, 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 chaotic, 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 and we'll feel it. So what that means is pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention while driving. Pay attention while having a conversation. Pay attention while you're online and you see something you don't like, because the impulse is going to be to react, to say, damn it, I don't, it's a wanting to break the cycle and patterns. In our personal lives, it's great. And what I mean by that is this gives us an opportunity to look outside the box, to look at our little worlds and say, got to move beyond my limited thinking. That's what's important here, because Aquarius is an air sign. It rules thought. It's a very highly intelligent air sign. It rules things like science, humanity. It's associated with humanity. So we may see more uprisings. That's what I'm saying here. Okay. We might see all kinds of solar events. We might see, because it has to do with electronic, the solar waves and the flares. We may see power outages, as I, shown you in my last video. Anything is possible with this. Could be lightning strikes, severe weather. It could also be insights. It could be profound insights like, oh my God, wow, I never thought of it this way. Wow, that's amazing. It'll be this profound energy. And the reason I'm saying this is because Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is heavily, heavily influencing this solar eclipse. Very strong. So what that means is over the next 3 to 6 months, up to the end of the year, we could expect this energy to be extremely volatile, especially at the 3rd month mark and the 6th month mark. These are the most vital. These are the strongest energies. So if this is going to happen on February the 17th, look at 3 months after that. Then from that point, go to 6 months, which is basically the other eclipse that comes in, and that's going to be in Leo, the opposite sign. So we're looking at massive change that's about to erupt one way or another, good or bad, in the next month or so, going all the way until August. This is going to be an amazing revelation, awareness, whatever you want to call it. And this is the start of it. This is the beginning of it. Okay, we're in it. And we're going to see how it unfolds. All right. So just to give you an idea, here is the full moon coming in and how strong it is. But first, before that full moon on February the 1st, we have Mars opposing the moon opposing Mars. Now, this really starts on Saturday in the evening. Okay, because Mars, is going to be sitting here, but the moon is going to be the trigger here. Okay, the moon enters. I'm looking at my notes on Saturday at 7:09 p.m. on the East Coast. And so this is where it starts ramping up the energy. Okay. And now we also have Neptune that just entered Aries, the soldier, the warrior. You see, and this happened on the 26th of January. Okay, which is tomorrow from this video. So we have this energy coming in. So now we have another fiery get up and go energy. And this again could cause a lot of impulse, delusion, fantasy, empowerment of some kind, or military and police presence. That is what I'm seeing here. And of course, we already see some of that in Minneapolis. We may see it in another state now. This state could be by the water because Neptune represents water. And so we may see it in California. We may see it, in Chicago because they're by the water. So, or New York. It's very possible. All I'm saying is possibilities. But I want you to notice this moon opposed Mars. It is going to be exact at 7:06 a.m. on the New York East, 7 degrees of Leo at 7 minutes past the hour, right on the north node of the United States. This is about a leader or leadership. And so I'm expecting news either with President Trump or somebody who has a Leo sun sign. President Clinton, President Obama are both Leos. Okay. I'm not saying, they may be arrested but maybe more news comes out about them, the connections that they have. We all know about Clinton and the island. We know Obama has deep ties to, these alphabet agencies and has been pulling the strings. But remember, friends, they're just front men. Okay. But there could be news regarding them, is what I'm saying, and maybe there's indictments. I don't know. But my point being is because Leo represents royalty and people in power and fame, we could see something else in the news involving someone very well known in some way. Now, I hate to say that there may be a death involved, but the eighth house does rule death and rebirth. Okay. So again, I'm just putting it out there just in case it happens. And we'll see that. But we're also seeing Mars at the other end. So this to me could indicate either something to do with a conflict, major confrontation, military intervention, police intervention, ICE agents, whatever it is. We could see some of that as well. But because the second and eighth house also rule power structures, finances, investment, money, all of that stuff, there could be major news about, gold and silver or market crashes or major changes to the market in some way. You see how it works in astrology? It's not, 100%, but we could see the indications here. Okay. And so this is going to be very important, especially with all this Aquarius energy right there in the second house of income and value. So this could be extremely important in around this time. Then we also see the full moon that's going to be activated a little while after in the afternoon at 13 degrees of Leo right there. And so we're looking at very unstable coming to light moments, realizations, awarenesses, whatever you want to call it. We are absolutely seeing it. And, this one's going to be closely aligned to Venus. Again, partnerships, relationships, open enemies, financial matters. This is all going to be in the mix here. Okay, so keep this in mind as we go into February. And this is the turbulence that I'm talking about. It's almost as if, the plane has taken off and we're involved in some turbulence as we try to get through the storm. And all of a sudden the storm gets worse. And that's February. The energetic storm gets even more intense, especially after February the 9th. And so as we get closer to the eclipse, it just really goes off the rails because of the Uranus right here. See at 27 degrees? That solar eclipse is going to be at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So it's going to occur, together right here, with these other planets. And again, I don't have a chart for it, but I will have a chart in the future for it. My members in the inner circle already know this, and because each month I do the astrology overview. So, consider joining the inner circle. But here is that first, actually the full moon right there, again, indicating something to do with power structures, people in power, financial matters. We're seeing exact inconjunct. The sun is making exact inconjunct to the sun of the United States. So again, this could represent leaderships, people in power behind these big criminal organizations and entities. Maybe a major legal announcement because seventh house can rule legalities. And of course, there's that, turbulent square to the moon of the United States. So we are looking at absolutely very unstable energy. And since Neptune is now in Aries, people are going to speak out more and be restless. But notice once Neptune goes into that first degree of Aries, it starts to hit the bottom part of the chart of the United States, which means the land, which means the home, which means, the foundation. And Neptune here could activate energy in the country, which means either could be states along the water because Neptune represents water, or it could be states, along a river or a lake or something like that, as I described. But it could also bring in, military intervention, people, rebelling, It could bring in some devastation in some of these areas, is what I'm saying. And again, Neptune's going to be in Aries for the next like 13 to 14 years. So it's not like it's going to happen right away. But given all the turbulence of the solar eclipse coming in and the Mars energy with the sun, it's just chaotic. It's just chaotic energy, is what I'm saying. And I'm just giving you possibilities here, friends. I don't want to see any of this, but this is the kind of energy we're dealing with right now. Okay. So very turbulent, very unsettling. And we may see more of it coming in. By the way, in February, Saturn also leaves Pisces and goes into Aries on the 13th into the 14th. So now we have these two signs that switched out of the water element into the fire and action element of Aries. Don't you think that's going to change things, friends? Do you think that's going to motivate some people, right? In our personal lives, it could be great. It could be great depending on where they are. You feel more motivated in that area of your chart. So I would say to some, it's going to be a benefit. To others, it's going to be, a weird time for change, which nobody's going to like. So that's the kind of energy we're dealing with. Anyway, I'm going to be going into my inner circle in a few minutes right after this. And so consider joining. I did the extended monthly horoscopes there, the weekly astrology overview, which people do enjoy. And of course, I teach astrology. And today we're going to be doing Q&A in the community. So members usually send me questions or have things they want me to look at. And we go over it and we discuss it. So consider joining, 7-day free trial. And I do believe we've also lowered the annual membership fee, so make it a little easier for everyone. So anyway, consider joining. And all throughout this craziness, friends, remember, as I try to tell everyone, I do this myself every day when I do my morning meditations or stretching and stuff. And I just, appreciate that I'm here having these experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. It's all part of the experience, but we are these spiritual energy beings in these physical containers having the experience, and the more you identify yourself with this, the energy, the source, the Christians call God, whatever energy you want to call it, but it is energy, and we are part of that energy. And so, the more you align yourself with that, you get by. You start, losing this identity that I'm a Democrat, a Republican, I'm this, I'm that. You start realizing who you really are, and you start viewing the world from that perspective. That everyone is these spirits having these human experiences. All right, so consider that. Let me get back to this. Go out here, stop sharing. All right, here we go. Let's see. There we are. I think we're back. All right. So anyway, we've got a few minutes. I'm just going to look at some of the comments here, and if any of my moderators want to send me any questions, more than happy to. That would be great. But friends, I'm giving you an idea of what's going on. That's what I'm here to do. I'm a messenger, if you will, like many others. And I'm just showing you the trends, the cycles, the patterns, reminding you of who you really are, and not to feed into any fears, doubts. Watch whatever you want, listen to whatever you want. But again, don't think that it's truth, because remember, we're in a very deceptive time period because it's, the AI is being used now, and we're seeing all kinds of manipulation taking place. And it's a very important time on this planet. Okay, so I have a question here. Thoughts on all the shootings lately? Be careful how you say it. I don't know who sent this question, but what's there to be careful about? People are outraged and they're frustrated, and they in their own personal lives, and they think that government has crossed their path, and they're not, and they're hurting them. Look, friends, there are a lot of people in this world that don't understand what's going on, and they're just acting on impulse. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing impulsive actions, either on the ice, they're doing their jobs, doing what they have to do. And then the people that are getting themselves into these situations. So my point being is you don't want to get shot. You don't want to get entangled with, problems. Keep your distance. That's all I can say. Keep your distance. I'm all for protesting. Protest all you want, but keep your distance. That's all I'm suggesting, friends. I mean, that's not a lot to ask for, is it? Anyway, do you think that the planets could be moved by other energies, man-made? No, I don't think so. If we're talking about the simulacrum, or the matrix, something that is controlling everything in this universe, then yes. But that's speculation. That's pure speculation. We could change the frequencies like the weather. I mean, I know we are changing the weather for sure. That is absolutely happening. And so we're influencing in that way. But you can't change the planetary energy because it's out there. It's beyond our physical comprehension. Now, if we all got together and started meditating and maybe move the energy, yeah, that could happen, but I don't see that happening. What will happen January 17th? There'll be a solar eclipse on that day, and it activates a new cycle. Okay. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen on that day. It just means a new cycle is going to happen. Events may occur before then and after then. Okay. There's usually, when an eclipse hits or a new moon happens, it usually gets activated the first week or so. But then because it's a solar eclipse, it's active the entire time. And we're talking about rebellious energy. We're talking about sudden change. We're talking about solar flares. We're talking about everything associated with Aquarius. Sudden shock, sudden surprise, sudden awarenesses, sudden announcements, sudden outburst of energy. You follow? That's what I mean that's going to take place here. So keep that in mind, friends. Again, it's, to help you understand the trends is what I'm getting at here. All right. So the more you understand the trends and the more you could look into this, and whether you use numerology, astrology, tarot cards, your dreams and visions, doesn't matter. You're tuning in to the field, to the consciousness, but you cannot taint it with your own belief system. That's the key. You cannot have these belief systems and say, oh, this Messiah is going to come save us, or they're going to help us. No, you got to stay neutral and you got to take it all in. And then, whatever makes sense to you will come out. Anyway, friends, thank you so much. I got to prepare for my inner circle community within less than 15 minutes. So have a great week. Stay vigilant. Stay, heart-centered. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't feed into the fears. All right. And I will see you guys soon. All right. Have a great week. Bye for now.